Hey golfers, Jack Spencer here, Practical Golf for All. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about saving your round from a disaster. Hopefully you've got your shoulder turn, body shift, all that down pretty well, and you're on the way to the course and you're feeling pretty good about how you might play that day. You're happy you're not going to work. And your plan is to, post a pretty good score. And it's kind of like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I guarantee you at some point in time in your round of golf, you're going to get punched in the face. How do you deal with that? How do you manage it? How do you keep the 8, 9, and 10s off your scorecard? Double bogeys in certain instances, or it's a good score for a hole, depending on how much trouble you got yourself into off the tee. So you get up on the tee and you're going to muscle up on one and you flare one and it rattles around in the trees and you get to your ball, and there's two good things. One is you found your ball, and number two is you have access to the back of it. So that's a pretty good break. You're 200 yards from the green, but you have your ball sitting there on hard pan, packed down leaves here in the Northeast, dirt. In the South, pine needles, sandy mix, combination of all that, whatever. You have access to the back of the ball. So, you pull out your hybrid and you think, okay, I can hit this up through the trees, keep it under the branches, draw it 30 yards, land it 20 yards short of the green, have it bounce up, kiss the flagstick, and sit on the lip, tap in birdie. That's a plan. I don't think it's a good plan, but the only thing I like about that is your actual club selection. A hybrid in a situation like that, where you have access to the back of the ball, is very predictable. Because the biggest thing I see with that is people tend to chunk. This hybrid will skip off the hard pan and still go into the back of the ball. If you catch it a little bit thin, it'll still elevate it enough. And all you basically do is hit a pitch shot with your hybrid. Like that. And don't be afraid to hit it, especially if you can advance the ball down the fairway. But pick a conservative route and a nice little pitch shot with your hybrid. The second thing is, let's say your ball's in some grass. It's not really embedded that deep, but there's wispy grass around it that hasn't, formed real well because it doesn't see a lot of sun. But you're pretty confident that you can get, say, an 8-iron on it or a 7-iron. I certainly wouldn't go less than a 7-iron because that's too much of an upright face. And you basically do the same thing. You're just pitch it out. Don't be afraid to wrap it a little bit. The worst thing you can do, you don't want to not reach the fairway. And you see that a lot, people, they just don't hit it hard enough and they wind up in the rough anyway. And that's probably going to be more playable than where you are now, but it's not going to be ideal. You want to make sure you get it to the fairway. Third case scenario is it might be sitting around some tangled vines or whatever, fescue that's kind of wispy but higher, but you're still convinced that reasonably you can advance this ball out of there. Sand wedge. Heaviest sold club in your bag. What I think I would recommend on this is play it more like an embedded ball in a bunker, and just hit down on it. Reason being, especially if there's some wispy fescue around it, the chances of that wrapping around your club head, if you try to actually follow through like a chip shot, even though you're not swinging that hard, you're going to put a lot of stress either on your wrists or more than likely your lower back. And, in trying to save a shot, you're not going to play golf for 2 months. Just in here, don't be afraid to hit this one at all. Like thump it. It's like that. It's not going to come out high and soft like a bunker shot. It's probably going to come out lower than you think, and don't be afraid to hit it. Okay, so Next case scenario is you find it and it's just a mess. You know, there's vines all over it, or the fescue is real thick. It went down to the bottom of it, and the fescue's like up to here. You can't reasonably expect to get your ball out of that. Just invoke an unplayable lie. It's a one-stroke penalty, and you have three options. One is you can go back to from whence you came, back to the tee, and replay the shot. And that's a pretty significant penalty. That's stroke and distance. Two is, if there happens to be an area within 2 club lengths of where your ball lies, where it's not nearly as bad, you can invoke a one-stroke penalty and take your drop there. And remember, in today's rules, you're dropping like this. So it's probably, you know, if you find an area where the fescue or vines or whatever aren't quite as significant, you know, it's probably not going to embed itself. So that's a pretty good option. And number 3, and this is the one we all kind of tend to forget about, is if you draw a line straight back from the flagstick through your ball, you can go back along that line as far as you wish, and under the penalty of only 1 stroke. Find a nice area and drop it. Many of you may have seen Jordan Spieth do that the year he won the Open Championship. You know, he hit a ball into the gorse. They found it. There was nothing around the gorse except real high, nasty fescue. Terrible place to drop a ball. He went back into, I don't know, was it a parking lot or the driving range or something where the grass was mown or matted down, dropped way back there, whacked one up near the green, chipped on and sunk a putt for a bogey, saved his round. So, you know, that's an option as well. But be realistic, you know, if you have to invoke an unplayable lie, do so. Again, you can recover from a double bogey. It's really hard to recover from a 9 or 10. So keep that in mind the next time you get yourself in trouble. I mean, you obviously will get yourself in trouble, and read where you are. And that doesn't mean you have to be like a pro and look at it for 20 minutes. You know, my guys and I we play ready golf. It's, you know, somebody's elsewhere and I'm looking over this ball, I just yell over, hey, go ahead and play, you know, I need to think about this before I impress you. You know, so it doesn't mean you have to slow down the entire course when something like that happens. But you do need to take at least, you know, 15 or 20 seconds and analyze what you're dealing with. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed this little tip.